Imagine, if you will, drifting off into a peaceful sleep, your head resting gently on a soft pillow. As you close your eyes, you begin to hear a voice. Soft, soothing, like a gentle whisper in the night. The voice begins to weave a tale, one of ancient times when the world was young and the lands were full of magic. Long, long ago, in the shadowed lands of Middle-earth, there existed 20 rings of power. These rings, though small and unassuming, held within them the very essence of the world's fate. 3 were given to the elves, wise and fair, who cherished the light of the stars. 7 were given to the dwarves, stout and strong, who delved deep into the earth for treasures untold. And 9 were given to men who above all else desired power. But there was one ring, a ring unlike any other. In the fiery heart of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron forged this ring, pouring all his malice, all his will to dominate, into its golden band. This ring, this one ring, would rule them all. With it, Sauron sought to bind the wills of all living creatures to his own, to cover the world in a shadow that would never lift. But darkness, no matter how deep, is always met with resistance. The elves and humans, standing together in a last, desperate alliance, rose against Sauron. They fought with all the courage they could muster. The battle was fierce, the land shaking under the weight of their struggle, until finally, Sauron was defeated. The One Ring, his precious, fell into the hands of Isildur, son of the King of Gondor. Isildur, oh, poor Isildur, he had the chance to destroy it, to end the evil forever. But as he stood at the edge of Mount Doom, the ring whispered to him, promising power, wealth, immortality. Isildur, overcome by its allure, claimed the ring for himself. But the ring, it has a will of its own, and it led him to his doom. Isildur was ambushed, and the ring slipped from his finger, lost to the depths of a river, where it lay forgotten for a time. But the ring was not content to lie in the dark forever. It was found by a creature, twisted and lonely, named Gollum. Oh, Gollum, with his hissing voice and pale, shivering form. He took the ring deep into the mountains, hiding away in the dark, clutching it close, calling it my precious. But the ring, always seeking a way back to its master, eventually slipped from Gollum's grasp. It was found, quite by accident, by a hobbit, of all creatures. Bilbo Baggins was his name, a simple soul from the Shire who knew nothing of the ring's dark history. And so, the story brings us to a peaceful place, the Shire. A land of rolling hills, quiet rivers, and warm hearths. It's here, in the gentle green of the Shire, that we find Bilbo, preparing to celebrate his 11th birthday. The hobbits of the Shire are gathered, laughter fills the air, and the night sky is alight with fireworks, a gift from Gandalf, the Grey Wizard. Bilbo, with a twinkle in his eye, entertains the children with tales of his adventures. But there's a secret in Bilbo's heart, a secret he's kept for many years. As the night draws on, Bilbo stands before the crowd to give a speech. He rambles on, as hobbits do, until suddenly he slips the ring onto his finger. And in an instant, he vanishes. The crowd gasps, but Bilbo is already gone, hurrying back to his home to pack his things. You see, Bilbo has grown weary of the Shire and its quiet life. He wants to see the mountains again, to feel the thrill of adventure. But Gandalf, wise, old Gandalf, suspects that the ring Bilbo carries is no ordinary trinket. He meets Bilbo at his home and urges him to leave the ring behind, to pass it on to his nephew, Frodo. There's a moment of tension. Bilbo clutches the ring, reluctant to let it go. But finally, with a heavy heart, he agrees. The ring passes to Frodo, though Gandalf senses that it is not the end of the story. Oh no, it is just the beginning. And so, as Bilbo departs, the scene shifts. Far away, in the dark lands of Mordor, the gates creak open. Hooded figures, the ring wraiths, servants of Sauron, ride out into the night. They seek the ring, their master's ring, and they will stop at nothing to find it. Gandalf, realizing the danger, rushes to an ancient library, sifting through scrolls, seeking confirmation of his fears. And there it is, a name, a dark name. Sauron's ring. He returns to Frodo with haste, throwing the ring into the fire. As the flames lick the golden band, mysterious letters appear, written in the language of Mordor. The truth is revealed. This is indeed the One Ring, Sauron's ring, and it cannot stay in the Shire. Frodo, bewildered and frightened, listens as Gandalf explains the gravity of the situation. The ring and Sauron are one, each seeking the other. It must be taken far away, beyond the Shire, beyond the reach of the ring wraiths. But Gandalf, though powerful, cannot take it himself, for even he could fall to its temptation. The burden falls to Frodo, young, innocent Frodo. But Frodo won't go alone. His loyal friend Sam, who has been eavesdropping on the conversation, is caught by Gandalf. But rather than punish Sam, Gandalf enlists him. "You'll accompany Frodo, won't you, Sam?" Sam agrees, of course. Wherever Frodo goes, he will follow. And so, the journey begins. Two hobbits, setting out from the Shire, stepping into the unknown. They're joined by others: Merry, Pippin, Aragorn the Ranger, Legolas the Elf, Gimli the Dwarf, and Boromir of Gondor. Together, they form the Fellowship of the Ring, a group bound by a common purpose. Their path is perilous, filled with dangers at every turn. They cross treacherous mountains, brave the mines of Moria, and battle the forces of darkness. All the while, the ring tries to corrupt them, whispering promises of power, sowing seeds of doubt and fear. But they press on, knowing that the fate of the world rests on their shoulders. As the night deepens, the story weaves on. drawing you further into its depths. Yet all the while, the voice remains gentle, soothing, a soft murmur in the quiet of the night. The world of Middle-earth, with all its perils and wonders, becomes a lullaby, rocking you gently towards sleep. And as the tale of the ring and its journey unfolds, you find yourself drifting, the voice guiding you softly into dreams, where perhaps you might join the fellowship on their quest, or walk the peaceful paths of the Shire under a starlit sky. Now, let's move to the next story. In a quiet corner of England, tucked away in a town so ordinary it seemed almost invisible, there was a house. A house so normal, so utterly unremarkable, that it was the last place anyone would think to find a tale of magic. And yet, within its walls, beneath its roof, the first chapter of a story, one that would echo across the world, was about to unfold. Number 4, Privet Drive, belonged to the Dursleys, a family proud of their predictability. Mr. Vernon Dursley, a large, beefy man with hardly a neck and a very large mustache, worked at a firm called Grunnings, where drills were made. He liked to spend his mornings grumbling about things that didn't quite fit into his well-ordered world. His wife, Petunia, was thin, blonde, and obsessed with keeping everything just so. Their son, Dudley, was the apple of their eye, a little boy with a mop of blonde hair who, even at a year old, could wail loud enough to rattle the windows when he didn't get his way. On a chilly November morning, the Dursleys' lives were perfectly normal, as they always were. Petunia was wrestling Dudley into his high chair, her patience fraying like the edges of an old, well-used blanket. Vernon was grumbling over his morning newspaper, oblivious to the quiet, strange things happening just beyond their doorstep. For while they lived in a world of drills and gossip beyond their understanding, a world of magic was quietly buzzing with news. Vernon stepped outside, bracing himself against the sharp morning air. He noticed something peculiar, a cat. But not just any cat, mind you. This one was seated on the garden wall, staring down at a map of all things, with an intensity that seemed almost human. Vernon shook his head, dismissing it as a trick of the light, perhaps, or the overactive imagination of someone with far too much work to do. He hurried on, eager to immerse himself in the familiar comforts of his daily routine. But the day refused to be normal. As Vernon drove through the town, he noticed groups of people dressed in strange flowing cloaks. They moved through the streets with an air of quiet excitement, whispering to each other as though they held the most delicious secret. Vernon frowned, pulling his car to a stop at a red light, and leaned closer to his window, straining to catch a snatch of conversation. "Did you hear? The Potters. Their little boy, Harry. He's safe. You know who is gone." The words were barely above a whisper, but they sent a chill down Vernon's spine. The Potters, his sister-in-law's family. That was a name he hadn't wanted to hear in years, and now it was being spoken of by complete strangers as though it were common knowledge. His heart pounded a little faster, and he had to remind himself to breathe. At the end of the day, Vernon returned home, his mind troubled by the odd events he'd witnessed. The cat was still there, perched on the garden wall as though waiting for something or someone. Vernon hurried inside, shutting the door a little too forcefully behind him, as though the action could keep the strange day at bay. Inside, the evening news only deepened the unease. Reports of mysterious lights in the sky, of owls acting strangely during the day, and whispers of something happening in the small hours when most people were asleep. Petunia, sensing his discomfort, turned to him with a question in her eyes. But when he mentioned his sister's family, the Potters, she stiffened, her face a mask of irritation mixed with something that looked suspiciously like fear. "I haven't heard from them," she snapped, as though daring him to ask more. And Vernon, not wishing to push further into those murky waters, simply nodded, letting the matter drop. As night fell over Privet Drive, the world outside seemed to hold its breath, waiting. And then, in the silent hours when the Dursleys were fast asleep, the most curious of things began to happen. The streetlights flickered and went out, one by one, until the entire road was bathed in shadow. From the darkness emerged a tall figure, with long, silver hair and a beard that reached the middle of his chest. His robes swept the ground as he walked, and in his hand he held a strange device, a small, silver instrument that seemed to draw the light from the very air. He paused at the end of the driveway, glancing down at the cat still sitting on the wall. With a slight smile, he murmured, "I should have known you'd be here, Professor McGonagall." In the blink of an eye, the cat leapt from the wall, landing softly on the pavement before transforming into a stern-looking woman, clad in emerald green robes. She adjusted her glasses, her gaze sharp and precise as ever. Dumbledore nodded in acknowledgement. "Minerva," he replied, "I trust you're well." "Yes, but we have more pressing matters at hand," she said, her gaze flickering to the house before them. "What about the boy? Is he really safe here?" Dumbledore's eyes softened. "It's the safest place for him, Minerva. He'll be protected here, away from the eyes of those who might wish him harm." "But these people," McGonagall protested, her tone laced with doubt, "they're not like us, Albus. They won't understand. They won't know what he is." Dumbledore smiled gently, his eyes twinkling with a warmth that seemed to radiate from deep within. "That may be, but it's precisely why he must stay here. He needs to grow up away from all the fame, away from the world that already knows his name." With a deep sigh, McGonagall nodded, though the worry didn't entirely leave her eyes. "Very well, then. But I hope you're right, Albus, for his sake." Gently, Dumbledore laid the bundle on the doorstep of number 4, Privet Drive, tucking a letter beside it. The baby stirred, his tiny fingers curling around the edges of the blanket, but he did not wake. "Good luck, Harry," Dumbledore whispered, his voice filled with both hope and sadness. And with that, the two figures vanished into the night, leaving the child, the boy who lived, on the doorstep, where his journey would begin. As the first rays of dawn touched the house, the baby slept on, unaware of the extraordinary life that awaited him. But for now, in the quiet of Privet Drive, the world held its breath, waiting for the story to unfold. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with wonder and enchantment.